Traditional consent practices involve assessing the client's capacity to give consent, and then describing the procedure and informing the client about risks and benefits, and answering questions. These steps all still pertain to obtaining consent for psychedelic sessions, but psychedelic experiences are different from other procedures that involve consent. I want to highlight 3 big ways in which consent is different when working with psychedelics. These differences require more mindfulness. Mindfulness on the part of the practitioner, for sure, because they are the responsible party, but also on the part of the client. The most obvious difference is that it's hard to describe the experience of an extraordinary state to someone who hasn't experienced it before. The second difference is that consenting to a psychedelic session is not only consenting to something you can't quite imagine or predict during the session, but it's also consenting to the possibility that you may be different afterwards in surprising, sometimes profound ways. A third way consent is different is that everything is amplified for both the client and the practitioner in a psychedelic session.
Well, I don't think how clinicians, research therapists have been going about their business is grievously wrong here. But I think it's important to underline to patients when we're discussing psychedelic therapy as an option with them, that we don't describe what we're doing as informed consent. And I think that's as important for practitioners and researchers to recognize as it is for patients. I expect lots of people in the audience will know the stream of literature from Johns Hopkins that would suggest that, we should maybe tell patients that this may be one of the most spiritually significant or personally meaningful experiences of their lives. And that's not always a positive experience.
And I call this trauma-attuned consent. This body of work is really created with the goal of creating a safe enough container to do this work in. This work being psychedelic assisted therapy, psychedelic facilitation. We can't ever know what is going to happen in these experiences. So someone can't say, I exactly know what's going to come out of this. I know who I'm going to be on the other side of this. And I know exactly what's going to happen during it between myself and my facilitator. And because of those things, and also just because of the society, culture, world that we live in, I personally don't believe that safe, period, exists for anybody. And so in this work, I'm offering this idea that we want to look for safe enough to do the thing. So in this case, it's safe enough to do a psychedelic session in the setting that we're in, with the medicine that we're working with, and with the people that are present. And so, maybe you notice that this is very situation dependent and that this changes over time, which is a very strong hallmark of consent. Attuning to trauma is the process of saying what's happening in my body right now, what's happening in your body, and what's happening in the space between the two of us. And how is all of that representative of the moment that you're in emotionally, of the identities that we hold in the space, of the situation systemically, culturally, the familial pieces that are coming in, ancestors, the medicine that we're working with. There's all these different factors that create the container. And so I think that our job as psychedelic facilitators, I think that it's our job to be a safe enough person to work with and to be able to attune to all these factors and how they arise in the relational container between facilitator and client. And that the consent process is about building a safe enough container for us to go into this vulnerable state in.